Hello and welcome back to Podcasting as Praxis. I'm David, my pronouns are he and him.
I'm James, my pronouns are they and them.
I'm Jamie, my pronouns are he and him.
And I'm Rob, and mine are he and him.
We watched the film again.
It's Jamie's
fault. It was a bad idea.
Banger.
It was not a banger. It was so fucking bad.
Yeah, well, we could have watched Smokey and the Bandit. Do you know what I mean? Like I keep suggesting.
Yeah, but someone, can't remember who, decided we were going to watch something else instead.
I don't blame
Jamie.
me. I was communicating with the mountain spirits.
It's all Jamie's fault.
Well, on the subject of mountains to climb and epic works to be achieved, I figured before we get started on the actual movie tonight, there's a little palate cleanser I like to play for you all, which is a little callback to something we've previously done, and this is very much an artifact of culture, so it qualifies for the cultural committee. So
A bold bending of the rules there.
I'm just going to hit play. Enjoy.
For too long, humanity has existed within dysfunctional and polluted cities that ignore nature. Now, a revolution in civilization is taking place. Imagine a traditional city and consolidating its footprint, designing to protect and enhance nature. The line will be home to 9 million residents and will be built with a footprint of just 34 square kilometers. And we are designing it to provide a healthier, more sustainable quality of life. The line's communities are organized in 3 dimensions. Residents have access to all their
I've got to
daily
say,
needs
the
within
new Mirror's
5-minute
Edge is
walk
looking banging.
neighborhoods. And the line's infrastructure makes it possible to travel
Very
end
lineal,
to
though.
end in 20 minutes with no need
Wait,
for
it
cars.
said 34 miles. How the
resulting
fuck
in
is-
zero carbon emissions. By leveraging AI technology,
AI.
services are autonomous,
Autonomous.
saving you time and effort.
Pew pew, lasers will
Designed
give
by
you bread.
world-leading architects. The line is
I
500
love-
meters tall,
They've just thrown in
200
little
meters
floating
wide,
islands with single trees on them
170
for some
kilometers
reason.
long,
Like,
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
just-
thing.
and housed
We'll
within
just
an
do some
elegant
Mass
mirror
Effect
glass
shit.
facade.
Why are there mirrors on the outside?
Intelligent
Is that
solutions
so you
create
can't see your
efficiency
shame on the
And
inside?
year-round temperate
Yeah.
I told you it's
microclimate
Mirror's
with
Edge.
natural ventilation. Energy and water
I don't know what that
supplies
is.
are 100% renewable. The line is designed as a series of unique communities, offering a wealth of amenities, providing equitable views and immediate
Even the
access
views are
to the
equitable.
surrounding nature.
That's my favorite thing.
40% of the world accessible within 6 hours at the
Within
heart of
6
the
hours.
globe's key trade routes.
I hope the Mirrors
a
do
place
that
for
same thing
commerce
that one
and
building in
communities
London
to
does, where it just
thrive
like cooks
nothing
everything
on
for
earth.
Melts
half an hour
everything,
at a time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's its
Line.
defense mechanism.
The
That's so the
city that
popes can't get
delivers
in.
new wonders for the world.
I love the
Yeah.
neon logo as well.
It's a lot of quilting in a way.
Yes,
Well, that looks
so,
shit.
So Neom has now, invented the next phase of their marketing campaign.
Well,
I'm
okay.
so tired.
When
I'm so
are we
tired.
moving?
No.
Why
We
not?
explained already,
Like
if we're moving anywhere, it's to like some horrible abandoned shack in the woods.
Well,
That's
I've got
that
to say,
amazing.
the fact that
What was it? That bomb fortress island, Jamie, that you posted a while ago. That looked fucking
All right,
amazing.
yeah. Yeah,
Our
that looks
Fortress
great.
of Solitude. That looks fucking great.
the Fortress of Praxis. Though I will say, the fact that the sides are mirrored does finally, it's a bit on the nose, but it is explaining the connection, and how this thing got started, because we've got a line and a mirror, and it's really not hard to see what was involved in putting that together.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe thankfully, maybe unfortunately, you make your mind up later. That's not what this episode's actually about, though.
No.
No, because we watched the film. We watched Netflix's new Born Alike, The Grey Man.
Isn't it really just Born Again?
Hey, there you go. It's evangelical Jason Bourne, but with less personality for some reason. It's really,
Somehow.
it's astonishingly lacking in any kind of personality.
It really is. Normative determinism has yet another feather in its cap, because fuck me. Okay, before we get going, I will say one thing about this film, which is that the choreography team, not the people who filmed it, not the people who actually captured the images of what was happening, and certainly not the audio team, but the choreography team were actually pretty good and had some good ideas for the action sequences. It's just that their delivery, in terms of how they're actually captured on film, the part through which you see it, is pretty damn poor.
How the fuck did you see it then?
Well, no, it's just like, I could see what was happening, it just wasn't really very well put together. There's like one section of it where I think that the choreography and the filming actually work, and we'll get to it. But other than that, it's just like, oh, that's some cool choreography, that's a cool idea. It'd be nice if it was actually stitched into a film in a way that actually felt, urgent and meaningful and gave you a real sense of like place and scene. So everything else about the film, I honestly think is trash. And I went into it, like, willing to extend it a lot of, like, I thought, well, the opening's a bit, slow. Oh, it's maybe picking up, getting interesting. And no, it's just garbage. And I think primarily its problem is just really trash writing. And then the actors are consequently phoning it in because they can tell that it's trash.
It's just incredibly trash throughout. I hated the camera work as well. And
the fucking drone shots.
Yes.
The fucking drone shots mixed with the shaky cam. It's just fucking pick a lane.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is I honestly think the direction in it is terrible and the writing is terrible and just nothing else can save it, basically.
I think if this had come out like 20 years ago, people would have fucking gone mental.
Yeah, probably, but here's the thing, if it came out 20 years ago, it would have been groundbreaking in a variety of different areas, rather than a cheap imitation, which is what expensive imitation, to be fair.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, it's an imitation of better products. I can't remember whether it was Rob or Jamie who said that this is like, it's John Wick without the charm, and yeah, like that was it felt like someone watched John Wick and went,
was that
how
not
about
you?
we do... I thought it was one of you.
No, I didn't say that.
No. I did not say it either.
I'll take credit for it then, but I don't think I'm the one who said it. Anyway, it feels like someone watched like John Wick and then went, oh, how about we do John Wick meets Jason Bourne, and just left all the bits of both that made them good. And the tone is all over the place as well. It's really, really bad.
It was actually somebody watched Jason Bourne and Deadpool and then battled out a script. Every single line of dialogue by every character was written for Ryan Reynolds.
It does actually.
It does have a lot of that energy, but then instead you get who are the main characters again? I've already forgotten.
The grey man, the beige man,
and the grey man and the guy with the mustache.
It was Alistair that said that, by the way.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
No, just incredibly. Just paced. I was just like watching. Sorry, I'm a little confused and a little half cut. I don't even know where I was going with the sentence anymore.
Yeah, Chris Evans was having like fun. Is my main takeaway.
Mm-hmm. I think he was.
He was just giving it the full pantomime villain, which was
He seemed to sort of understand what movie he was in, and maybe the only one.
I mean, he did, but at the same time, it just didn't do anything. Like, I was not compelled by the villain, frankly. In fact, I was genuinely, every time it cut back to him, I just sighed the longer it went on. With his introduction, I thought, okay, this could be interesting, but it was just, like, I mean, I've got to give him credit for committing to playing a sociopath with no charm. Unfortunately, that does not make for a very compelling film.
Mm.
And it's just, it has the pedigree of the Marvel shit all over it, including
really
the interminable, like, clear setup for fucking follow-ups for the Grey Man expanded universe, the Greyverse. Welcome to Habba Hotel.
Bert and Ernie that directed it, innit?
The Russo brothers, Tweedle, Twip, and whatever the other guy, him.
Okay. See, I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised at all by it.
Yeah, Bert and Ernie Russo, that's what they're called. But yeah, the plot of the film is basically that Ryan Reynolds is the worst hitman player in the world. And it's like, do you know what I mean? They want him to kill one guy fairly quietly, and instead he just leaves a trail of fucking like bodies and destruction around the globe.
Also, right, so
wrong Ryan, by the way.
But shall I just say for the record, like, let's set up the intro to this, because I actually think the introduction to this film makes zero sense on a very like crucial way. So the setup is he's a prisoner who's visited by a CIA agent who says, right, you can walk out of prison today if you agree to become basically a disposable assassin for the CIA. And he says, sure. And smash cuts to, like, what is it, 18, 19 years later? All right, cool. It's in, I think it's Bangkok it starts off in.
Yep.
And it's like a New Year's... Yeah, it's a New Year's celebration, a fancy nightclub, and you find out as it kind of is introing it that basically there's a guy showing up, he's going to sell some intel to some other shady figures, and our Ryan Reynolds hero is basically there to just murk him. And the way they do this is he goes into a, like, you know, storage room underneath a glass dance floor, which is then has another level above it with another glass dance floor, which is like the private area at the top. And he's got like this big fuck-off rifle with like thermal imaging so he can see through the two levels, right?
And heal.
And heal, which made no sense at all. Like Tom Clancy was spinning in his grave during that. But let's just gloss over that one. So
to be fair, he deserves to, the Republican cunt. I hope he never stops spinning.
Starting strong. So the target comes into the topmost level, and he acquires him, and meanwhile he's doing that CIA control thing where like he's in communication with a control room, etc., and they're all sitting in the dark telling him what to do, etc., and he's told to basically take the shot. And at that moment, a little kid walks up next to the villain, and you're like, okay, this is the establishing
moral
shot
dilemma
to
time.
show that moral dilemma to show that he's not completely and utterly irredeemable, that he is in fact a protagonist. So that's fine, and he goes, I don't have a clear shot, and they tell him to take it anyway, and then the countdown starts, and something ridiculous happens. All the people in the upper floor move over to the window to watch for, like, the ball drop, essentially, for New Year's, but the target stays in the middle of the dance floor without the kid next to him. And he still doesn't take the shot, and instead goes, oh, guns jammed, and goes into an unnecessary sequence. And it's like, he had a clear shot there with no child next to him, and he inexplicably just decided still not to take it, even though the child had walked away. And I do not understand any of that. It undercuts the entire premise of the opening. Because, of course, he doesn't take the shot, and he goes and pulls a fire alarm, and as everyone starts clearing out, he then goes on, like, a really crap, like Jamie said, hitman run to take the guy out. But I just don't understand.
Well, and also, it's like the hitman without the procedurally generated bystanders, because it's like, clearly that was the COVID scene, because they're in this massive discotheque, but there's absolutely nobody there.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Yeah, I think he didn't shoot the guy because the fucking kid was still in the room or something. I don't know.
It just seems a bit weird, frankly. Like,
I mean, weirder than that was the order was just to kill this guy when that guy was there to sell this specific piece of intel that was hidden in a necklace, and there didn't appear to be any sort of plan to retrieve that in any way, shape, or form.
No, there was. That's what. So right, okay. So for the benefit of listeners, he goes on like a rampage. We end up having a fight in the area where the fireworks are being set off from big bamboo pipes because
I was bored out of my mind already during this scene. I started drinking during this scene.
Yeah, and there was one tiny little good bit during that fight in the bamboo pit, which is they actually worked in the fireworks a little bit, but everything else about it was entirely forgettable and shit, right? And so he beats the guy down, and the guy, like, so our protagonist is called, what is it, Sigma 6 or something stupid like
Sierra.
this?
Sierra
6. Sure. And so he finds out that this is Sierra 4 who he's taken down, and Sierra 4 basically hands him this necklace as like his dying wish, like, you need to take them down, they're bad dudes, etc. And so that's when Sierra 6 goes rogue, and that's the film. But right after he leaves, our team come in and search the body, and that's the team that were meant to retrieve the intel. So, like, that part, there's not a plot hole.
How are they going to do that? Because, like, it's easy to do that if the guy falls out of a window onto a barge full of fireworks because no one else is down there. But if, like, you get shot through the floor in a fucking room full of, like, you know, arms dealers or whatever the fuck, how are these guys just going to turn, like, room service? Do you know what I mean? Like, just what happened to that guy? I better check for a pulse and then just, like, steal the necklace. You know what I mean?
Can't believe the guy I was just going to pay millions of pounds to take delivery of this thing from him has just died and left me the thing to take right now. Like,
yeah.
It's such a shit plan. And before you say it, I know it's the CIA, but I can only suspend my disbelief so much.
To be honest, right, looking back at it, maybe the thing that's in the text but they never translated to the screen is maybe he was meant to gun down everyone in the room. Like, maybe that was the actual, like, plan. But if so, that wasn't translated at all in the film. So, already we're off to a real... I remember, this is the opening... Like, the opening scene in the jail, I thought, well, that's all right. It's just scene setting, and it's fairly done. Oh, it's got, Billy Bobby Jobby Thornton is, like, his handler as well. And he's so phoning it in. Like, it's just... I'm honestly quite impressive how little of a fuck he gives about the film he's in. So...
He is.
Yeah,
I like that though, because like Billy Bob Thornton at the best times just annoys the shit out of me.
I think he's quite good. I quite liked him in Goliath, which I know is apparently controversial, but I actually thought he did quite well in it. I didn't like him in Fargo. I know everyone raved about him as the villain in Fargo, but I thought it was really oversold. Anyway, but yeah, so that's the opening. That's the setup scene. But the very first opening scene is just boring.
It's so boring.
Really. It manages to be both by the numbers and shit at the same time, which I think they managed
to do like a fisticuff scene amidst exploding fireworks be just boring as shit, which is incredible. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah, but at least while he was like murking all the guys before he jumped out the window, like at least we got a drone shot of the room.
Yeah, like. I don't understand. See, this is the thing. The tone and the visual style of it is all over the place. Also, the music choice and the way they did all that bugged the absolute shit out of me because none of it fit at all. It feels like it was basically stitched together, and any time interest waned, they just said, let's do this instead. And it doesn't fit. It really doesn't fit.
Yeah, no, it feels grossly disjointed. I'm going to blame James Gunn for this shit. Where like all fight scenes have to have like a song that you'll know that plays through them now, and it's like, yeah, it's his fault. Fuck him.
I mean, it should also be said up front that this movie, much like all these sort of tentpole things that Netflix seems to start without a prior existing property, is just algorithm gone wild, essentially. Except it's just it just does the same thing over and over again, but you've seen it in other movies, but better. And like I spent some parts of yesterday watching both Top Gun and Point Break, and like those are incredibly way better movies in every single way.
Honestly, the whole sequence of who is it who did Point Break and Heat and the rest of them? Someone I'm blanking here.
I don't remember the director.
Point Break is Catherine Bigelow, and
it is
Michael Mann.
Oh, is it? Right, never mind. I'm getting mixed up. It definitely feels like someone's watched those films, though, because there are direct homages to them in this film. Like, there's action sequences where you're like, this is the Heat bit. This is the Point Break bit. Like,
this is the Uncharted bit.
Yeah, exactly, right. Well, actually, interesting. But yeah, there's like sequences through it where it's like it feels like they basically what went good in that film. Okay, let's do that, but better. And they pull off like there's one action sequence in the film that I actually thought, that's quite good, and in a better film that would have been really cool. And that's it. There's just nothing else redeemable. They even have another action scene that could be sort of good, and it's just really badly done with terrible editing, constantly cutting back to the control room and the world's worst acting taking place. So
the only credit I'm going to give this film at all is that it knew not knew how to, but knew that it should use superior European public transport to its advantage.
Right. See, that I didn't like that scene, but I felt like there was a germ of a good idea in it. This is sad. Like, actually, this is my frustration for a film, right? Okay, it's paint by numbers, but in terms of the people who came up with the ideas for the fight and choreographed some of the individual actions, there's clearly good ideas and a lot of talent there. It's just squandered. It's just so bad, and that makes me angry and disappointed, which is not what you really want in a film. So should we go through it and explain the riveting plot to our listeners?
I can't remember most of it, but
I mean, I'm not going to joke. I got the Wikipedia summary open because I couldn't remember half of it.
And that is, as we've already established, that is the best way to do this because otherwise we're just going to get sidetracked on boats.
Yeah.
Whose fault was that? Huh?
Not fucking mine.
Why did you even bring the boat up? It wasn't relevant. You can't just go, there's a cruise ship though, it looks really cool and mysterious, and then get mad every time anyone asks what's the cruise ship
What happened with the cruise ship and why is it stuck at the temporal wall? Yeah.
I love how that bit has just transcended episodes and is now just lingering behind every cultural committee as a festering abscess of resentment. Like, it's wonderful. But
I still don't know what
that's
happened
not
to that
consistent.
boat. I just want to know. Inquiring minds would like to know.
So yeah, okay. I'll start us on the summary, and we can like comment on it as we go, I guess. So he kills a dude. He gets given a necklace with an encrypted drive in it, detailing the corruption of what the Wikipedia calls rising star CIA official Denny Carmichael. Right,
Played by the guy from Bridgerton.
I'll need to take your word for it. I genuinely
is that what he's in? Right, okay.
He's he's like, you know, competently, like, he's not particularly memorable, but he's competently acting the role of like evil CIA overseer, essentially.
Is he?
And
is he though?
I mean,
is he like?
I think, to be fair, I think maybe it's just the fact that
It's incredibly dialed in, and also it was at some point there's a discussion takes place where they're like, "Oh no, this is the bad CIA that does bombings and overthrowing people and assassinations, not the good CIA."
Yeah, right. You know, like there are reasons to talk about this film, but we'll get to that. That's a bit later. So he takes the drive. He immediately gets an unmonitored phone call from that guy who's like, "Listen, did you lift anything off the body?" And so he like hedges and be like do a little bit of phone.
I don't still understand why he's hedging. Why doesn't he just say, "Yeah, I have it," or "No, I don't"? Like that seems much easier.
I was trying to decide whether it's worth it. Honestly, it's bad writing, which is meant to advance the plot.
Because the guy that he like fucking killed on the barge told him like he was like fucking what was it like fucking
Sierra 4.
Sigma Male 4 or something like that.
Well, anyway, so he decides he's going to go rogue, and he promptly changes clothes, goes to an internet cafe, disconnects the computer from the internet, which I thought was a nice little touch, and then just checks what's on the drive to find it's encrypted, but it's clearly got information on that CIA guy who's just contacted him, whose name I've already fucking forgotten.
Danny, I can't forget it because Danny. I can't hear it in any voice other than fucking Tommy Wiseau's. Oh, hey, Danny. No, like, I cannot hear that fucking name without Tommy Wiseau popping into my head. I hate it.
So at this point, he decides he's going full rogue. He refuses extraction. He calls his old handler, Billy Bob Thornton, and says, listen, I'm into some shit. Can you get me out? He arranges for him to be picked up. And you're like, okay, cool. So now we're going to get into
not
some
just
kind
picked
of
up. He gets picked up by cool operators. And you know that they're cool operators.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute, because this film has interesting issues with its wet work teams. So meanwhile, you don't find this out till later, but just for the sake of narrative, he sends the drive to a former handler of the program he's in, who lives in Prague. We'll get to her later.
And also to Prague, because this movie loves exotic location. Come to another country, shoot people in exotic locations.
So fucking annoying to the point where I actually genuinely got confused and thought a severely weird teleport had occurred.
Well, that's also because they have to like display the name of the country they're in all the time, and it's just like
the thing.
Okay.
The thing that annoyed me about that is when they have the flashback that we'll talk about. They have a flashback which we'll get to, I guess.
Ooh,
but
yes.
they didn't tell you which country that was in, and that just left me confused.
Yeah. I have a lot of feelings about the way this film is structured, which we'll get to when we talk about the flashback. So anyway, same time, CIA bad guy Carmichael decides to hire the villain of the show, who is a mercenary, a former CIA agent who was kicked out for being too sociopathic for the CIA, and this is me making a massive jerk-off motion off camera, and basically like sets this guy up to go track down our great hero.
Well,
here.
I mean, they have, but if you're going to get like an ex-CIA operative for like wet work, you're going to have to get like Chris Evans with a fucking pedo tash, because King Josh is already in prison.
Yeah.
I will say the pedotash was the single bit of inspired choice for his character, and that's it. Everything else about it is terrible.
Also, I quite enjoyed that they hired him at the CIA, and his backstory is that he was caned out after 6 months for torturing people. And I'm like, you don't spend the first 6 months like learning how to work the email and getting coffee for people. They just point you straight to the nearest like torture pit or something.
Yeah, but he was like doing it on the bus or something where people could see.
So we get at this point he reveals that he's like, okay, so who's he close to? He's like, well, his ex-handler who's retired. He's like, okay, well, this is
they
easy.
have daddy issues between them.
Yeah, so we'll find his handler. We might not have a file on this guy because he's been erased from the system, but his ex-handler, we've got his file, so we'll find someone who matters to him, kidnap them, and then we'll squeeze the handler to find out where he is. And this is actually like, there's a little bit of like the one like interesting sequence in the film flows off the back of this, but essentially, they kidnap the handler's niece, who's a young girl of like, what, 12, 14, something like that?
She's the girl from the I Think You Should Leave Tammy Crap sketch.
Yeah,
so,
I noticed that. But like, what I loved about the fucking kid in this film is they clearly just like wrote the role for an adult. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, Billy Bob Thornton's like older than Methuselah. His niece is probably an adult. And then at the last minute, someone went, "No, nieces are supposed to be children, aren't they?" Do you know what I mean? So this because like the dialogue was just absolutely not words you would ever hear a child speak. It was just baffling. Like,
but it was almost funnier, like off the back of the Tammy Craps thing, hearing it come from her. Like I added something almost like inadvertently.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think that's the case. I think what happened is they played The Last of Us and went, "Oh yeah, a young girl who's like, you know, sort of naive, but wiser beyond her years, and like gives back as good as she gets." I think that's what they were going for, and it just sucks. It's just really bad at it. So anyway,
I think it was an adult like at one point, and they just didn't change the script.
I mean,
it wouldn't be the first fucking film we've talked about.
No, exactly.
The scene where like he's fucking protecting her in the house. And he goes, like, she's sat by, like, out in the garden, and he has to go and get his fucking jacket that she's sitting on. That was incredibly fucking weird tonally, because that, like, in any other film, that was like a meet cute. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, shit, you're right. No, you know what? I think you're right, Jamie. That, oh, God. Yeah, okay. I took that on face value, and now I'm regretting it. Jesus.
That's Chris Evans for this film.
Yeah.
And also it has the end result of the thing that I really can't stand in most cinema is like the cute sassy child with the one-liners, which is just fucking incredibly annoying. Who's not yeah.
So anyway, they do that. They lift her, they imprison her. He goes, like, the villain goes and meets Billy Bob Thornton and says, "Hey, we got your niece." And he's like, "All right, fine." So Billy Bob Thornton then phones the team of operators who went to extract our hero. So, Rob, how would you describe this team of operators, and how do we know they are so cool?
Just, you've seen these people. You've just seen them everywhere. It's like stock character by now. They've all have little bandanas on their heads, and you know they have knives that don't look out of place at a D&D convention, and they have beards and big muscles. It's just the same everywhere. It's just a multicolored cast of cunts. Like you've been there.
And he turns up to the airfield in like a little taxi, which is a cute visual, and they point their guns at him, and they do the whole word and response kind of CIA call.
Yeah, what was it like? Army age male approaching in little tuk-tuk. It's like, all right, guy.
Yeah, military age male approaching, and then so we've got the guns on him. And
that's it, military age male approaching.
Yeah. And then they're like, okay, challenge, hermit, response, hermitude, or some stupid shit like that. And then the guy goes as well to shake his hand, and he goes to shake it, and he pulls his hand away in a joking kind of way. Yeah. And it's like, all right, okay, fine, whatever.
Would have been much
that
cooler
cool thing we used to do when we were 6.
We've gone like challenge, banter, and the response was timeline.
Yeah, exactly. Right? That's for if you need to identify to another listener that you indeed are shared listeners of this podcast, that's for challenge and retort, banter and timeline. Anyway, so they get on the plane, and the plane it's a cargo plane. It's got like a fucking jeep in it, and he just goes to get some sleep.
See, before we go any further, by the way, I'd just like to stop and just talk about the dialogue slightly for a moment.
Yeah, go on.
Boys, your boy, lads, like, my guy. Every single sentence in this film could be finished with the words, no homo, and it wouldn't seem out of place.
Damn, yeah.
It's disturbingly accurate throughout the entire film. Like, I hate it so fucking much. It's so weird.
It definitely feels like this was... I don't know who wrote this, but it feels like it was written by someone who'd previously been like, like Ivy League frat house kind of thing, is how it feels. So...
Yeah. It's very much a film for and about the boys.
My favourite thing was, right, because like by the end of the film, like one of the fucking Russo brothers, I think it was Ernie, has turned up in a cameo as CIA guy number 9 or some shit.
Okay. Oh, of course.
And that reminded me of when they had the groundbreaking first gay character in a Marvel like film, and it was one of those dipshits at a fucking support group talking about how his boyfriend got like fucking killed by Thanos or something.
Oh shit.
And they pushed the boat way out for like fucking LGBT representation again here, where there's the line where fucking like Tashi Larry says, "I'm gonna fucking put a bounty on his head like so fucking high that every man or woman he's ever fucked will like come out and try and kill him." And I was like, "Wow, love to see inclusion there."
It's just so incredibly crowbarred in.
It's also really good when you know that these kinds of scenes are like completely extraneous to the plot and therefore can be excised in countries that don't approve of that kind of thing. Like just super easy without actually any effort.
Yeah, like damn, it's it really is paint by numbers and it's market by numbers as well. So anyway, he gets on the cargo plane. They take off, and while they're in the air,
it's not relevant to the plot yet, but remind me like later on to fucking mention the marketing by numbers thing.
Sure, okay.
Is this a thing about the Skittles product placement?
Yeah,
No.
they make,
The Gamer snack.
there is a lot of product placement in this fucking film.
It wasn't product placement. I don't know if you noticed, but like a lot of the producers were like Tollywood people, which is like like Tamil Hollywood.
Oh right.
And that's why there's that one Tamil character that turns up later on.
Oh yes, don't spoil it. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, right. So he's on the plane, and it's at this point the plot arcs intersect, and he gets the guy's picking up, get a phone call from Billy Bob saying, "Right, I need you to kill him and retain everything on his body, but make it painless." Because he's like, he's got his niece, so he's like, "Fuck it, I've got no choice here." So they do this whole tension building bit where they sneak up on him.
He clarifies later in the film that he knew he would like fucking like just chin everyone and blow the plane up. Because there's a bit where he says like, "How was your flight?" And he says like, "Oh, it sucked." And he's like, "Well, I knew you would catch a better one," or some fucking stupid bullshit. You know what I mean?
Everything has to be too smart for its own good with the dialogue. It's really terrible. But I will say, right, this leads to the one semi-competent action scene of a film where I actually thought, that kind of works.
No, it was terrible.
Interesting.
Fucking terrible.
Yeah, it was somehow worse done than basically the same thing in the fucking Uncharted film that I had to watch like a couple of months back.
I don't know. Everything up to going outside the plane, I thought was good. I thought it worked. But everything so basically they get into a fight on the plane, and it causes explosions and the plane starts falling apart, etc. And the actual action shots of the fight on the plane, I thought was quite good. I thought it was well done. You could follow the thread of it. Unlike a lot of the other later action scenes, it was well choreographed in the sense you could tell where the action was taking place, despite it being quite a cramped, claustrophobic space.
Is that because there was literally a thread of smoke to follow because he was beating folk up with a flail?
Possibly, actually, yeah.
Yeah,
but
I think in terms of like actual like skydiving fights, it's not as good as the one in Shoot 'Em Up. And in terms of actual like fighting on a cargo plane, it's not as good as that bit in one of the Fast and Furious films where like Vin Diesel does a flying headbutt on a guy twice his size.
I've not seen the Fast and Furious films, so I can't comment, but I'll take your word for it.
And also, it's literally not as good as the fucking scene in Uncharted where they do this almost shot for shot.
See, I've not seen Uncharted, so
It's the game.
No,
the game,
actually,
not the...
no. Yeah. Oh, you have to see the film because there's a character in it who's like.
Do I really
like,
have
credited.
to? I don't want to.
No, not you. These two.
Okay.
Because there's a character in it who's credited as the Scotsman, and the running joke is every time he speaks, everyone just goes like, "Huh? What was that?" Like he's fucking Scooby Doo or some shit. It's you'll fucking love it.
Yeah, the brave bit, but without the charm. Yeah. So anyway, he gets into fight on the plane, destroying the plane in the process, and jumps off of it and does that whole thing in the air where he grabs a guy who's got a parachute and pulls the emergency chute and uses that to get himself down while choking the guy out with the original chute. It's like,
also,
okay,
can
fine.
I just say, because I watched the original Point Break yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that skydiving scene, so much fucking better done. Fucking so much better done.
Well, most
than
of
Point
it
Break.
was fucking blue screened and CGI'd, frankly. Whereas in Point Break, they actually fucking went out there with cameras and filmed it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the
I mean,
squid.
that's
It's
the,
the squids versus CGI equivalent of skydiving.
That's my favorite thing about the fucking skydiving scene in Mission Impossible 6 is that like it's like the like obviously they composited Paris in like underneath them and everything, but they did actually throw Tom Cruise out of a fucking plane. just like, you know what I mean?
Critical support.
Absolutely on brand for Tom Cruise. It's like, right, well, we can't skydive into Paris, so we're going to have to like use computer graphics to put the ground in. And Tom Cruise is like, okay, but it's important that I still fall out of a plane.
Like, I mean,
Just
to be fair,
rolling out
no
a
one
gigantic fucking blue mat the size of a field to fly over in circles. Just to keep Tom Cruise happy.
It's a team of 50 guys skydiving ahead of them with like a blue mat strapped to their backs, clearly. To be fair, though, like no one throws Tom Cruise out on an airplane. Tom Cruise throws himself out on an airplane, and it's his one redeeming feature as a person. Well, not redeeming, but you know what I mean. Anyway, yeah, so from this point, if you're already bored of this film, strap in, because it just gets worse from this point on, because we now have to have
so bad.
There's a phone call between Billy Bob Thornton and our hero, in which, it's established that they've got his niece, and he does this thing to hide the fact that he cares about the niece, of going, sorry, line's breaking up, and then goes, shit, to tell the audience he cares about the niece, and then it cuts back to the conversation. And then
my favorite bit about this is once they finish the phone call, Billy Bob Thornton like says something to fucking mustache man, like something like, "Oh, you're gonna need more guys" or something, and he just really petulantly opens the fucking door of the limo they're in and throws the phone out. He's like, "Well, you're gonna need a new phone." I was like, "Fucking get him, mate!"
it's like,
Absolutely ruined him there.
There's also a bit, he makes a comment to him, and his response is, Stash Man just kicks him in the face, which is like, oh, okay, sure, right, whatever. At this point, any pretext of there being a decent narrative structure of this film breaks down, because we now do a flashback of however many years.
Yeah, I feel if you need like an entire flashback sequence in your film to explain why the hero might care about rescuing a child, probably write a better film.
Do you know, it wasn't even that. It was to explain how he would track her down later, which is incredibly annoying.
Well, there's that as well, but like,
yeah,
do you know
so
what I mean? They could have just said like he's fucking good at his job. Do you know what I mean? They didn't have to include Chekhov's pacemaker.
Yeah, well, they cut back to a sequence of where he meets the small child, and small child is recovering from surgery, which they crowbar in. Just is so badly written. Like, they really go out of their way to drill into the audience. She is recovering from surgery, and he is there to protect her.
And she's the most hipster-ass kid as well, because she's got, like, a fucking, like, a child record player from the 40s or something, and then, like, a bunch of fucking, like, shitty records by, like, wankers. Do you know what I mean?
I mean,
like,
to be fair...
Silver Bird by Johnny Knobhead or some shit is the fucking unofficial theme song of the film for some reason.
Yeah, and they've got that purely so that they can play that, like, you know, in scene while he's having a fight outside her bedroom with an assassin sent to kill her, ? Like, so here's the other part, right? So she's Billy Bob Thornton's niece, her parents are dead. The setup to this that means that our, you know, grey man is in there is that essentially there's people who want Billy Bob Thornton and his family dead, and their address has been leaked. And curiously, Carmichael, the CIA villain, is refusing to allow other CIA assets to be deployed as security. So, Sigma 6 is sent in to essentially like be her babysitter and guard her.
Sierra 6 now. Let's like fucking give them at least the credit of remembering what things were called in the film. He said sarcastically.
On the note of what things were called in the film, I don't think it was mentioned once, but Google's casting here gives the name for Ryan Gosling's character as Colt Gentry.
Yeah, that is his name.
Was that mentioned in the film? I must have completely fucking missed it.
Scene. It is in the first scene.
I'm glad you clarified that, because when Rob was fucking live tweeting the film to me over Discord, I had no idea what the fuck he was talking about when he brought that up.
That's amazing.
Oh.
So Lord Fauntleroy is there, and basically, like, essentially she collapses suddenly, and he's like, oh shit, and he rushes her to hospital, and they're like, oh, it was a programming glitch with her pacemaker, which we can track from anywhere in the world. Like,
cover up, it was to do with the poison inside Tammy Crap's head, we all know.
But seriously, like, a nurse says to another nurse while they're looking at a screen showing like the tracker, so they can track her with a pacemaker. This is the entire point of the fucking flashback. But then to justify
why again remind me why it's necessary to put like a GPS beacon inside your pacemaker, because I'm just like,
it's
2022, Rob.
I keep
how else
this.
is the hospital supposed to make money?
It's the Internet of Things, and if she doesn't pay her subscription, then they'll turn off her seat warmers and disconnect her heart. So,
yeah. Isn't that the plot of Crank 2?
So he brings her home, and she's like, "Thank you so much," etc. And that night, a guy breaks in with a silenced pistol, and they have a fight outside her bedroom, where our dude is trying to hide the fact that he's fighting a dude to the death outside her bedroom with
a flashlight. So there's like interesting cinematography going on, but it's interesting in the way it's a fucking head injury.
What I love about that is how absolutely fucking blasé, like fucking Ryan Gosling is, because he's sitting looking at the like security feeds on his laptop. As you do, you know what I mean? Just like fucking the kid's sitting reading a book or something, and he's just there, I'll just chill out with a bit of fucking footage of the outside of the house. Like fucking, you know what I mean? Looking at my own garage door ASMR 10 hours on YouTube. And then they all go off, and he's just like, oh, maybe you should go to bed, because I'm about to have to murder some fucking prick. Do you know what I mean? For twatting around with my dad cameras.
I mean, that's...
Took me fucking ages to bolt those to the wall.
Was quite good about the flashlight, because they're fighting with a flashlight, and then it cuts to a drone shot outside the house showing the flashlight flicking back and forth, because it's artistic, and that's basically
at least that drone shot was fairly static though.
Yeah,
it wasn't just the one they use over and over, where they just swoop low over something and then sharp turn right.
Yep. So. That's it. Basically, end scene. She's like, "Is everything okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's fine." She looks at his feet and sees the feet of the dead guy sticking up behind the pillar.
No. He doesn't say, "Oh, everything's fine." He says, "It's just another Thursday," and that's important, because then you go, "Oh, he said that earlier." When he says that again at the end of the fucking film, it's like they watched Shaun of the Dead, because that's a recurring thing in Shaun of the Dead, where people like say something.
Oh, you got red on you,
and then it gets said again later, but in a different, like, and it recontextualizes something. That's like a big fucking... I can't remember the name of the guy that directed that. Anyway, that cunt, whoever he was, the Baby Driver guy, that's something he likes to do. And, like, these fucking dipshits, like, clearly just went like, oh, yeah, we should do that, and then couldn't think of any, like, clever ways to do it. So people just constantly just repeat things that were said earlier in the film.
And that adds pathos, don't you know?
That make sometimes in context that make no fucking sense. Like... He says to fucking, like at the end, he says to the fucking, like the villain, "Oh, nobody throws a loaded gun." And it's like, wow, yeah, he'll remember that from when you said it to someone else in a different location an hour ago.
Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright, yeah, that was the one.
There's a lot of mugging to the camera in this, is the only way to describe it. It's very, I don't know. It feels like a film that fundamentally doesn't have confidence in its own premise, which I think speaks volumes. So now we've got the establishing shot of why he cares about the kid, and the fact she's got a pacemaker which can be tracked from anywhere in the world inside her. Wonder how that Chekhov's gun's going to be used. We cut back to present day in Vienna, where essentially, meanwhile, Villain has put out a hit on him and said, $50 million, and it's like it's going to get all the wet work teams from Reykjavik to from Reykjavik to Jerusalem, was it? He said, or something like that.
Who fucking knows?
Shit, yeah.
I wasn't paying attention at all, but they showed you all these establishing shots of like fucking different guys, like different teams of guys, like striding towards helicopters. And you thought, oh right, these all look like vaguely interesting, like variations on haircut number 6. I wonder what their personality. Oh, they don't get personalities. Do you know what I mean?
No, they don't need them because they all have operator aesthetic as well.
Yeah, they all turn up dressed like they're in like Rainbow Six Siege later on, and just get mowed down wholesale.
Well, hold that thought. So he goes to Vienna to get new documents. He visits like a weird Austrian guy who's intentionally played up to be, I don't know if it's meant to be like comic relief / creepy, but it doesn't really work.
And also, in terms of like location time, they're in Vienna, so they go to the 100 Wasserhaus, which is possibly like the most famous location in Vienna. It's just like, look, we have a budget. It's that building you may recognize from those travel brochures you leaf through at the dentist.
Yeah. So anyway, we then have the most comical scene of the film where the guy's like taking his photograph for his passport, and he's like, "Can you step forward a bit?" And then he kicks.
Oh yeah, he does
comedy.
The full Mr. Burns, doesn't he? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like the comedy.
Trying to land on Leonard's corpse.
Yeah. So the floor opens up and he's dropped into an old well, which then seals with bulletproof glass, and it's like, aha, got him. And then he phones it in because he wants his money. And we then get this just interminable scene of him like unpacking. Like he obviously picked up some stuff from the stash on the way there.
I loved the MacGyver scene. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it was played at like fucking 5 times speed though.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, because they had to illustrate that like a lot of time had passed. Otherwise, like people would go on fucking like Reddit and complain about how quickly like Moss Chops drove from fucking Berlin to Vienna. Oh yeah, that's happening at the same time, isn't it? Because she sees the fucking reflection of like the well in the fucking CIA dude's glasses, and goes,
"Yeah, that was incredible."
I need to go to Vienna.
But the thing with that is that she in that fucking bit, she's been interrogated by.
Hang on. Should we explain who she is for the benefit of our listeners?
Oh yeah, we just did the usual Praxis cast thing of ignoring the woman. So
no, right.
She was only in the second scene of the film. How important could she be?
Well, no, to be fair, right, it looks like very phoned in, and then it only becomes relevant at the end of this scene we're on, so, it's not misogyny at play here, it's just bad scripting. So she is the woman who was there as
perhaps if she were a better written woman,
Yeah, well, that might have something to do with it. She is the lead on the ground in the first assassination scene.
I don't know, like, we remembered the 46-year-old child.
What?
Yeah, that was quite memorable.
Who's the 46-year-old child?
The one with the record collection. This is another swimming episode where we all paid attention to a movie.
This film is
so
like fucking. It's mercury. It just like it both poisons my brain and glides off it effortlessly. Like it's really not very good. So she basically, there's a scene where she's pulled in Berlin and debriefed by evil CIA, villain lad, which gets cancelled halfway through because he's away to Vienna because the guy's been found. Not before he suspends her though, and she's like, right, fuck, my only way to prove I wasn't involved is to capture this guy myself. This will be important later because we then get a scene in Vienna where the like actual pedo stash villain turns up. With a wet crew.
Yeah, sorry. Also, side note, by the way, she's played by Ana de Armas, who is also incredibly underserved because she plays pretty much exactly the same role as she does in the last 2 Bond movies, where she's a zillion times better and more entertaining.
Last one Bond movie, isn't it?
She's in 2.
No Time to Die, I'm pretty sure.
And the other one as well, but very briefly.
Oh, I didn't know.
I don't think so.
Well, anyway, my whole fucking argument here is that they've skipped around to so many different fucking locations at this point that I have already forgotten that fucking the spook guy is on his way to Berlin. So it was very confusing for me to go, why the fuck did she just appear in Vienna so quickly? Because I thought she was getting, like, done in the interrogation.
Oh, they had that like establishing scene where she was about to get on the plane for like fucking CIA, and then the guy rang her, or the guy waiting at the plane handed her a phone.
Too many people were expecting to be wheels up.
Yeah.
Yep. It's really dire. Anyway, but long story short is he MacGyvers his way out of a well by breaking pipes in it that cause water to flood it, so he gets close to the surface.
It was some proper like fucking. It was some proper fucking LucasArts adventure game.
I was literally about to say it's Escape from Shit Movie Island. Yeah, it's
used improvised hacksaw on pipe like sort of stuff.
Never trap Ryan Gosling down a well that has a rubber chicken with a pulley in the middle in it.
So he basically, just as the guys show up at the well, he blows the surface off the well and comes out swinging and takes
also
down the
not
team.
Just blows it up. He takes like the gunpowder out of a couple of bullets and creates an explosion that I can only like credit as thermonuclear at the same time. And now I'm not a physics person and I don't give a shit about that in general.
Yeah, I look forward to some dipshit on YouTube like having to fucking like myth bust this and see whether it would actually work or not. Because like the worst part of it for me was like he emptied the gunpowder out of like all the bullets in his gun, and I'm like, yeah, okay, fair enough. And then he just dropped all the empty like fucking like shell casings in the napkin with the fucking gunpowder, and I'm like, don't you want that to have as little like open space in it as possible to make it explode?
Yeah. Also, so here's the physics on why this wouldn't work, because he takes a couple of shots at the bulletproof glass and it just like stays there. The idea that the kinetic energy from all of the gunshots at once would have enough of a punch when we've already shown that multiple bullet shots on the same place don't really do much to the glass. It's like, it doesn't follow.
No, but it doesn't break the glass. He just like blows the fucking hinge off or something. Because like the whole well comes out of the ground and just like fucking decapitates 6 guys.
I suppose. Anyway, so he comes out swinging, and then he takes down all the...
famously, being underwater next to a huge explosion has never been bad for anybody.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. The shockwave, if that shockwave was strong enough to blow the hinges off, it should have flattened him. But oh well. Anyway, yes, he comes out swinging. He takes out all the lesser mooks, but then he gets incapacitated by the villain, who like pepper sprays him and holds a gun up to his chin. Has got him against a wall, and the guy doesn't kill him immediately because he wants the card. And he's like, "Have you got it?" He's like, "Yeah, I can't find it. I think can't really see. It's in my pocket." And he hands him the pin to a grenade as a grenade drops at his feet. And the villain looks down and goes, "Oh, ballsy." Then they both dive different ways out windows. It's just the worst shit ever.
This film, the Russo brothers must have like an incredible fucking defenestration fetish, because every cunt was just jumping out of windows all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like the universe this film's set in doesn't have doorknobs or some shit. People just leaping through fucking plate glass constantly to exit a room. It was like everyone in the film just spent their entire childhood just watching Die Hard over and over and over. Do you know what I mean? Like,
that one scene from Jurassic Park where the guy goes "clever girl," because that's essentially the same line as in the stupid grenade drop scene.
Yeah. So he gets out, and then he just inexplicably just starts walking away rather than running. And totally understandably, the villain just comes out after him and shoots a couple of shots over his head. And he's like, "Ah, shit." And at this point, he's then bailed out by CIA handler woman who was in the previous scene, showing up and trank gunning the villain.
Why?
And
just again, you could have just shot the guy in the head, and the movie would have been over there. Like I'm fine.
She's been suspended. She's had to hand in her real gun and badge.
Raspberries.
Well, I mean, no, but like she's there to prove that she's still good at a job and deserves a place in the CIA, and they don't let you have that if you shoot independent contractors.
Barely.
That's true. No, you do.
If Mustache Guy had been a South American like democracy, she'd have been fucking like all, you know what I mean, gone ham on his ass, but.
Yeah, or like some person living in an Afghan village, they like double tapped in the head is a sequel to a promotion. But
what I really liked about that scene though, is she shoots him in the arse with a dart gun. Chris Evans like just does a whole ass somersault down the stairs. I was like, that's pretty good. That like.
Then, meanwhile, there's some dialogue because he's lost a shoe. Our hero's lost a shoe during all this, so he's sizing up the villain's shoes, and then it shows you he steals his shoes before.
Yeah, but you see, because like Billy Bob Thornton said at the start of the film, I get it, you glib. And so, you know what I mean? That was his character established. He just has to... Because he keeps asking people what size clothes they wear.
Yeah, I thought...
Before he either buys their clothes or, like, fucking murders them.
Honestly, I thought it was just, like, a nod to, like, the shoe fetish community who are just out there and you know, you got to draw them in to make your box office work.
Is it DeviantArt the movie? Trap Ryan Gosling down a well for all the damsel in distress fetishists.
It MacGyver's its way out of a well or it gets the hose again. Anyway, she tranks him and sticks him in the boot of her car and they drive off. Like, if this all feels incredibly pointless and like it's just filling time,
it is.
It's really...
It's also a
bad.
good description.
The film is already too fucking long.
Yeah, well, it's 2 hours before credits, and I just...
Yeah, my favorite bit was when like I thought the film had ended, and I looked, and there was still 20.
Oh Christ! Yeah,
I know, right?
Jesus wept.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So
if you're listening to this, if you think, oh, thank fuck, the pod's over, no, it's not.
No, we're still going, son. So at this point, they have some banter and discussion, and he's like, well, how do you know they won't kill you next? And she's like, okay, where is the card? And he's like, why should I tell you? And she's like, well, I just saved your life. And he's like, fair point. It's in Vienna. So, no, sorry, not Vienna. Fuck.
Prague.
Where is...
Prague.
Thank you. It's in Prague. So see, what David said about location shoots really does just fuck you up in this. So they decide they're going to drive to Prague, okay, where they meet the previous one of the other...
I want to say as well, all this European, like fancy European location hopping was fucking wasted on me. You could have told me the entire thing was set in France and I would have believed you.
I know, right. So they drive to Prague...
Except for the bit in the flashback, which was clearly set in Robert Redford's house from Winter Soldier.
Well, they directed that as well, so that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet you it's a tax write-off for one of their homes. Guarantee you. Anyway, so they go to Prague and they meet this dying ex-CIA section chief who's previously been established. She's the one who gave the mission to safeguard the kid to him previously. So you already know who she is. And she's dying of cancer. She got 3 months left because she smoked cigarettes. And basically she's decoded it and it's all
not actually the reason that she's got cancer is all that time she spent in nuclear silos with Seth from Cochrane.
I liked that. But yeah, so she's decoded the thing, and it shows that CIA guy. This is where we get to the politics of the film. I hope you're all ready for this. So, evil CIA guy goes on a rant previously about how he graduated from Harvard and became like head of whatever the section is in 8 years, which no one has previously done. So they decode this, and they discover that Sierra 4, Sigma 4 as I'd prefer to call him, had basically found out he was working for some kind of shadow government. And had tried to blackmail
this was
him.
a fucking incredible scene. This was really quite something.
So it turns out that Carmichael, the evil CIA dude, essentially has been running his CIA division as his own personal hit squad for the benefit of some unknown benefactor who's clearly involved in some kind of shadow government. And so we get bad CIA versus good CIA.
It was fucking incredible. It's really just like, oh no, the good CIA would never just like kill a whole bunch of people in cold blood or do anything.
Yeah.
That would only be the bad CIA. The good CIA is only involved in sending people little lollipops, I guess.
Yeah, they keep doing this thing where like fucking Chris Evans, not the nonce one, talks about how like fucking because he's not actually CIA but he's private contractor, he's allowed to like fucking shoot old ladies in the kneecaps and shit, and that's meant to draw
says
some
a
sort
lot
of
about
distinction.
society.
Yeah, it's supposed to draw some kind of distinction where like, oh well, you know, he's like, you know, private military guys are bad, but like the CIA are good, and it's like the CIA hired him.
So now state ownership's good.
At any point.
Well, now you discover that actually the reason that guy at the beginning was prepared to have him gun down the child or whatever is because he himself is evil. But it's like, oh, come the fuck on. So
was that not obvious when he told him to shoot the kid?
I mean, yes, but I mean, you know, now it's explaining that actually he's rogue CIA, so it's all okay. The actual CIA are good. But yeah, they just casually drop in, this is some shadow government shit. That's an actual line in the film. This is some shadow government shit going on, and they show you
I
a page
feel
of redacted text.
I feel like we were very lucky. We were very, very lucky to get through the entire fucking interminable runtime of this film without anyone saying anything about, like, oh, is that going to become a thing? Because it feels like it's going to become a thing.
Yeah, right. So, basically, at this point, for some reason, I didn't actually know how they tracked down where he was in Prague, but they figured it out, and so they send down several teams of assassins. So
they look in a file or some shit.
It's all the ones from the stupid montage. It's all the operators who were different, literally color-coded operators. I don't know if you noticed this, by the way, because the first team of them arrives in a red van, and they're all in little red colors on the screen.
No, I mean, like how they found them. It's because they see footage of them posting the fucking thing in Bangkok.
And they figure out it went to Prague.
And they go, well, who would he have posted it to? Like, and the only other person he's ever fucking like spoken to, like, ever, is apparently the woman that used to run the London office, who retired to Prague.
I mean, I'll be totally honest with you. I missed that because my eyes were basically dripping out their sockets at this point, trying to focus on this thing. So the teams arrive. I'll spare you the blow by blow of it, but essentially, as 3 months left to live, ex-CIA woman sacrifices herself. So
it's really good because like they're on the upper floor of a building with a big fucking round window at the front, and all these guys just get out in the middle of the street and like machine gun in the windows, and he like notices them pulling up and heroically like dives out the way with the woman, but they're like firing up at this window from the street.
at like a 60-degree angle, so they're really only taking out like the skylights essentially.
Yeah, but there's still bullets like ricocheting off the floor as they're all crawling around, and it's like, that seems a bit fishy. Then like she like the CIA, like the young CIA woman, like fucking legs it, and with the drive, I think.
Yeah, so
he gets tricked like by the old lady into going into the fucking like escape hatch, and then she shuts it behind him, and then she turns on the fucking like hob on the cooker, and the guys, like the fucking strike team guys, all get all the way upstairs into the building without noticing that the gas is somehow from this one fucking ring on the cooker must be like the fucking back of the Saturn V. Do you know what I mean? Like, fills both stories of the building with gas, like in about like 3 minutes. It's fucking incredible.
Single-handedly responsible for the pan-European energy crisis is this fucking cooker.
Yeah, also, key plot points. Ex-CIA lady gives CIA handler lady the keys to her Go car, which is like a car packed with a go bag full of like guns and shit like that. And so she legs it to escape to get that, and then she comes back later driving it. This is important for the action sequence. So at this point,
I missed that, and I didn't even fucking question it. I was just like, she's got a sports car, and why not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So he gets outside and is promptly, like, he's almost going back in to try and save her when it explodes, and at this point the Prague police show up and arrest him. And he, like, knocks a few of them down, jumps a fence, is legging it away, outruns a police car on foot, which I found was particularly hilarious, and gets smashed by a car as he tries to cross the street. They grab him, arrest him, take him to the middle of the square, and, like, handcuff him to a railing in the middle of the square while the SWAT team show up, because like this is obviously a bad dude. He was able to disarm 3 police officers. There's just a big, gunshots and all the rest of it. We don't know what's going on.
The square
so
also, by the square also, by the way, is I think a map from like Unreal Tournament or something. Like, it's clearly clearly designed as like a gun arena.
Yeah, so he's like, you need to empty the square, and they ignore him, so he steals a gun, fires it in the air, because cops notoriously like it when you take their gun and don't just shoot you dead instantly. And that causes the crowd to start running, at which point the Payday Gang show up and start doing what the Payday Gang does best, which is shoot cops.
None of them were wearing like clown masks. These were all like fucking Tom Clancy.
These are special operators, I tell you, because they wear the little skeleton hoodies.
Well, I don't know, man. With the amount of equipment and all the rest of it, it felt very much like a Payday mission.
No, it's Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah.
Like, some of them had cosmetics where they got, like, a skull mask over their face or whatever, and some of them just looked like regular guys in a fucking helmet.
But regardless, they show up. They even
had 2 guys with fucking, like, ballistic shields.
Well,
out of the van at one point.
Yeah.
So
again, reminding you of like better movies where like I can't remember where the side of the van opens and there's like a minigun or something in there. And it's like, no, it's just 2 dudes in a shield one of whom holds the other,
that's
like, very close.
The minigun coming out of the van, I think that's Howard's End.
It's the remake with the Jacko as well. The bad one with Bruce Willis.
Don't even fucking bring that up. You have to do that at some point. That is one of the worst films. I saw that in the fucking cinema. Shit,
you paid for that, you fucking loser.
No, my mate worked in the cinema, so we all got in for free.
It's not a waste of time if it's stolen. Anyway, so this then plays out a scene, and what makes this scene especially riveting is they continually cut back to the special ops room where Mustache Pedo Guy is going off about. I should rephrase that actually. Where Pedo Mustache Guy is going off about...
Important distinction in case people think they accidentally switched Chris Evans's in the middle of the film.
Exactly. Right? No joke, that's what was in my head too. So yeah, where he's basically commenting on and directing the mission, where of course we're all wearing GoPros to go back to the central office, etc. Meanwhile, there is another character who we've not mentioned until now, who's been really background wallpaper, who's like the deputy to this dude.
Another woman.
Evil CIA
Is
guy.
this because we're doing this on purpose?
Yeah.
Again, if they wrote these women better, we'd probably talk about them more.
Again,
probably.
This is a film for the bros, by the bros. That's
this
it.
film very much is like...
Yeah,
but
that other woman is Bugs from the new Matrix film. Is it Resurrections?
But also very much in this is a dude's rock movie, but it's no homo, and it's just important that we stress that once again.
Well, apart from that one line, it's some homo.
Also,
the film can have little a homo as a treat.
Yeah. Also, the best fucking bit about this scene is like the fucking they have like 2 fucking lorries full of dipshits turn up and just start like World War III in the middle of a fucking like European town, and like they're getting fucking like mown down, and the cops are getting mown down, and like there's fucking mounted weapons on vehicles and everything, and it's just turned into like fucking Call of Duty, and the guy's like, I'll give 20 million quid to the first person who puts a bullet in that Ken doll, and I was like, that's because he's in the fucking Barbie film. I see what you did there.
Yeah, very
clever.
Also, so I'm reading the wiki to remind myself, because the only reason I can remember Carmichael is I read his name on the wiki. The woman who we're talking about here is called Suzanne Brewer, alright, who's meant to be overseeing Hansen, but he's just ignoring her casually because lol misogyny. Not bother to write any depth to the characters and their interactions whatsoever. So essentially, they keep cutting away from this action scene, which was so-so, to completely break the rhythm, to have the reactions in there, and she's going mental about...
If you don't know how like exasperated Chris Evans is at all of his guys getting shot, then like, you know what I mean? You'll not
his
know
color-coded guys.
Yeah, you'll not know how cool Ryan Gosling is for shooting them all.
So, also she's going, we're all going to prison behind this, like, you've started a war in foreign sight and all this kind of shit. But he just ignores her because, again, this film basically takes the position that women are only interesting where they service the plot to get the men from A to B, and outside of that area, no one really cares about them. They've not really got much by way of personality. In fact, okay, here's a little exercise. Let's do this for a second just to prove our point. David, tell me a distinct personality trait about any of the 3 women we've described here. The ex-CIA chief with cancer, the handler who was on the ground with him in the first scene, and the deputy CIA person. Tell me a personality trait about any of the 3 of them that distinguishes them from each other.
Wisecracks.
They all wisecrack.
Yeah, that's universal. I think the question here is really, do any of the women have any agency? And the response is yes, the Central Intelligence one.
But at the end, Anna de Armas like fucking turns into like the guy from Doom. He's just like running around with a fucking grenade launcher, like you know what I mean? No scoping dudes from 400 paces. It's fucking incredible, like.
But again, to stress to our listeners, no personality. There's just no character in them.
No.
They put far more into like the villain and the hero and even the CIA evil dude.
Yeah, but the far more that they do put into it is they have written some dialogue that would have been better serviced by Ryan Reynolds for them. That's it. That's the extent they go to. No one in this film is particularly good. as a character at all.
It's that old thing. Like, I remember Red Letter Media did this years ago, where they had a little thing to show the difference between the prequels of Star Wars and then the first set of Star Wars films, where they basically said, okay, describe me Han Solo without referencing what he looks like or his clothes. And then they said, okay, describe me Padme Amidala without describing what she looks like or her clothes. And it's like, there's nothing there to show the contrast. This is one of those films where you can sort of pull off this exercise for the male characters, but you really can't do it for the women at all. Because they're not there. They're there as plot devices. They're there as equal opportunity plot devices and nothing else. And it's really quite grim. And giving them all the grenade launchers and fucking, rip and tear in the world doesn't make up for that, frankly. So anyway, they have a big fight scene that involves public transport, which is where David gets horny.
He's driving the tram.
There's fighting a fucking tram. That's great.
Yeah, but
more
who was driving
trams.
the tram? Because it was stationary, and then it just starts moving. But there doesn't appear to be anyone driving it.
Yeah, I think the implication is meant to be that it's on autopilot, which makes exactly zero sense.
I don't think it wasn't stationary. It was moving. Although someone did fucking ding the little horn though, so someone rang the bell. Unless that was him.
Wasn't there an establishing shot of it coming into the square and then being evacuated because people were shooting the windows out or something?
Oh, I don't know. That might have been again. Mercury.
Again, the action scenes in this were really badly shot and very cluttered, and they don't have a good through line. It's just a general rule in this,
Yeah.
But again, I think bits of the action had some cool ideas, and there were individual moments where I'm like, oh, choreography for that is quite good. It would have been nice if we could have properly seen it and if it had been properly contextualized.
The bit where he gets on the roof of the tram and the last guy on the tram is coming along shooting holes in the roof with a shotgun, and he looks
the
reflection
window
in the building
yes.
shoot him. That was cool.
Yeah, that was the only section from that entire sequence I thought that's excellent. And then
Did you not like the bit where they 9/11 the building with the tram though?
Yes.
No, because I'll be totally honest with you. All of this fucking cool guys don't look at explosions kind of bullshit just doesn't really do it for me. I'd much rather have do you know what made the Bond films good? It was good fight choreography in tight enclosed spaces where it felt like everything had weight. Whereas this film,
it felt like it felt that the Bond thing. When there were fights going on or gunfights, it felt like there were some kind of stakes and people got hurt.
Yes.
Like when Jason Bourne gets his ass kicked, he's limping five scenes later. Whereas this is you can stab Ryan Reynolds literally in the neck 5 times, and he's just like, can somebody just take me to the hospital, and that can take a few hours. It's fine.
To be fair, until we see him stabbed by a pen, we don't really know what he's up to. So.
Yeah, it's got that whole. So I've seen on YouTube this scene in the Fast and Furious where someone cut this together. It's all the action shit and getting knocked around they do in one of the films, and everyone's like fine until the final bit where there's a terrible scene and that the guy's been badly hurt because suddenly all the other actors go, oh my god, he's badly hurt. It's got that kind of thing. There's no weight to any of this. And it really undercuts it, which is a shame because there was some very cool, the choreography team for this were quite good. It's just they were let down by literally every other part of the film, including again the filming, which really undercuts it. But so anyway, they fucking take out the extraction teams and they're getting away in the car when suddenly there's one last lone operator. Can you guess what he's called? That's right, listener. He's called Lone Wolf. Yeah, his code name is Lone Wolf. An operator named Lone Wolf, which is where the Tamil production stuff cuts in, doesn't it, Jamie?
Yeah. There's a Tamil guy following him on his own, and also Chris Evans' character is incredibly gay for the guy, which I thought was quite cool. But he tracks them. They go to a vet. They take fucking Ryan Johnson or whatever the fuck he's called to the vet. And then they go to a hospital because they need to fucking steal something. I can't remember what the fuck they're doing in the hospital.
If they need to get the tracking stuff.
Oh
for the girl.
yeah. They've got the serial number from the fucking weird guy, but they need to actually track it from a hospital. And then while they're in there, the lone wolf turns up, and they have a really cool fight.
Yeah, wherein it also turns out that the junior CIA handler Ana de Armas is not just a junior handler, but also a fucking CIA master assassin with Mortal Kombat skills, essentially. Like, she's 1 inch removed from like being able to do like get over here moves.
Mm.
Yeah, that was a fairly cool fight scene. Then we get the incredible like fucking who throws a loaded gun thing that they want to call back to at the end for no reason.
The hospital fight scene was fucking incredible with the whole defibrillator as nunchucks, but that was just fucking, that was ridiculous. I laughed at that. It was good.
See, it was great. It was the one genuinely like fucking inspired part of the film, that fight scene. Like,
see, like I said, the choreography team don't suck. It's just that every other part of this is fundamentally flawed from the get go. Anyway, so Lone Wolf steals the drive from them, right? And then takes it to Pedo Stash dude.
In the castle in scenic location, Croatia.
Yeah, because, we just need to do a fucking warpath throughout Europe, essentially, for this film. So, meanwhile, they are tracking her down, and sure enough, Scenic Castle. They Six infiltrates the mission while, what's her name here? It's Miranda is her name, which I genuinely could not tell you from watching the film. If it was said, it was said, it's not used.
In fairness, you didn't know that the main character's name was Court Gentry either, so...
No. So... It's just so many questionable choices, yeah. So he infiltrates and he rescues the niece plus her CIA handler uncle, who is mortally wounded as they're fleeing, and he tries to sacrifice himself in a failed attempt to kill Hansen, which he doesn't.
But he does say something back to Hansen that Hansen said to him earlier.
Yeah, it's very clapback.
Because what is more cool than throwing someone's own words back in their face? Anyway, meanwhile, Lone Wolf defeats Miranda in a fight, but
then just gives up because they're not honourable people.
Yeah, meanwhile, he's seen the evidence and he's unhappy because he's a lone wolf and he's not on anyone's side, and he decides that actually maybe she should have the drive anyway, and he's disgusted with Hansen's willingness to kill children and his lack of morals. It's like, alright, whatever.
They should have just made a film with that guy in. He was way more interesting than everyone else.
Honestly, they might be setting up a spin-off. I'm not even joking.
Well, hopefully they get a director.
So yeah, and from this point, it's all pretty much cookie cutter. I mean, I can't think of anything particularly interesting that happens in the last section.
There's a hedge maze.
Well, that's the thing. Hansen takes her hostage, drags her into a hedge maze.
Again,
Hansen
which just reminds you of The Shining, a much, much better movie.
Yeah, exactly. Then in the hedge maze, Hansen and Six have a fight. Before Six can kill him, Hansen's shot and killed by what's her name? Suzanne Brewer, the deputy to the corrupt CIA guy, who then tells Six that she plans to pin Carmichael's actions on Hansen so she can gain blackmail on Carmichael. But Brewer pledges, and she pledges that the niece will be safe, but only if Six continues to work with the CIA. They basically cooperate in the cover-up. They're forced to. No action is taken against Carmichael. At the very end, Six escapes custody and frees Claire.
It could have just ended like 20 minutes before all of this. By the way, Jesus wept.
But we get another rendition of like Little Silver Bird.
Yeah, very important.
Fuck, that was by.
As he escapes with her, and Carmichael and Brewer are left dumbfounded as to how Six was able to get away, setting up the Last of Us style assassin and child sidekick sequel, almost certainly.
Well,
it
is. I've just checked this. It was announced that a sequel is in development with Gosling reprising his role, and the Russo brothers returning to direct. He will also produce the film with Joe Roth, Jeffrey Kirschenbaum, and Mike LaRocca, while Stephen McFeely will write the screenplay.
Oh, huzzah.
Yay.
Can't wait to see the next one.
We are not doing the next one. Like, I genuinely
want. What if it's good though? Yeah. What if it's really good? What if the next one's shit, and then we have to watch the third one in case it does a Has Fallen style turnaround?
This is...
if they recruit Nick Nolte for the sequel, because they keep referencing the old man as the bad guy, if they get the wizard back, then I'm fucking in there.
That's okay. That's the one circumstance in which we'll review the sequel, I think. But
there's like got to be a million actors that could pick for the old man that would like make this a fucking day one watch.
Ryan Reynolds.
Now I was going to say like Christopher Walken.
Nah.
Morgan
or Brian Cox. I tell you who they could get. Werner Herzog.
Oh, yeah, okay, watch that. Yeah.
Maybe actually, I don't know. I will say this film is not as good as the first has fallen.
Oh no, it doesn't have any.
I disagree. This was merely bland, whereas the first Has Fallen film was astonishingly racist.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's what at least makes the first Has Fallen film memorable. Whereas this,
frankly, I'd rather I forget a film that like has no racism in it than remember one that does.
I mean, yeah, okay, sure. From content production perspective, though, I'd rather have something we can actually be like, seriously mad at and make. I don't know. This is I cannot.
We've done 90 minutes on this horse piss.
I know, and it's been a fucking effort. You know that scene where Billy Bob Thornton gets his fingernails pulled out? It feels like that. That's what this recording has been like of this film, because I swear to God, I cannot remember half the shit.
That, by the way, was one like 20. All of a sudden, I'm like, what the fuck? Did we get into like a latter season of 24 here? Like, what the fuck was that all of a sudden?
The tone of this film was so all over the place, bouncing between light-hearted Joss Whedon poor imitation, like banter, cutting to pulling out someone's fingernails.
Imagine being a poor imitation of Joss Whedon.
I don't have to have the films in front of us, Jesus.
Only half.
Oh dear. Yeah. Okay. So that's your cultural committee for this month. Yeah. We'll stop doing these when enough of you demand it.
Yeah.
and even then, we may continue out of spite.
More seriously, though, if anyone would like to write in, if any of our patrons would like to write in with a suggestion on films we should have a look at, we will promise to at least consider it.
We will at least consider them.
Nah.
No.
I prefer just like thinking of some shit at the 11th hour and then everyone getting really mad.
The next cultural committee's already been decided, unfortunately. So,
because like if you let the patrons write in, they'll all be like, "Oh, you should watch this film. It's about like a thing that happened in the real world." And I'm like, "No, we should definitely watch something with Daleks in it." Or like fucking, do you know what I mean?
In fairness, you will just find a way to watch something with Daleks in it anyway.
Yeah.
So, would you like to hear the kicker for this film, by the way?
If we must, but sure.
Kick me instead.
I was just going to mention. I meant to mention this, but it costs about $200 million to make. And in terms of releases outside, it's hard to tell what it's done on Netflix because that's all subscription based. But internationally and worldwide, it's made about $250,000.
Yeah,
there you go.
Didn't it only come out on Friday?
That's still really poor for past opening weekend on a budget of $200 million.
Yeah, certainly with this cast.
Shown it really but no one's going to cinema these days anyway, though, are they? I mean, to be fair, nobody's paying for fucking Netflix these days either, because it's shit.
Yeah. To be fair, they're gonna reintroduce ads because it turns out that the infinite free money volcano is over. Whoops.
Well, maybe if they didn't cancel every good show they ever somehow made.
Yes.
People would like fucking stick with them, but instead it's like, oh, you enjoyed that, did you? Well, fuck you.
Horrible.
We're not making any more of that, but we're paying $100 billion for Friends.
Yeah, have fucking Bright too.
Yeah, I know. It's like they just
are they still making that after like fucking Max Landis turned out to be like LA's premier sex offender?
I don't know. Probably.
No, I don't even know that story about Max Landis. So
he's a fucking sex offender.
Yeah, not wrong. Then.
Yeah. But I mean, the problem with Netflix fundamentally is they want everything to be like doing gangbusters, like Stranger Things or whatever. But they don't understand that to create an ecosystem where you can get a breakout like Stranger Things or whatever, you need to support a whole bunch of stuff which is really good, but that doesn't have a wide audience. It's got like it's got its supporting niche and it keeps them on the platform.
Exactly. So fucking bring back Santa Clarita Diet and bring back the Dark Crystal, you fucking cunts.
The Dark Crystal.
So much money was spent on that, and they just fucking went, nah.
Absolutely bring back the OA. That was fucking batshit. I loved it.
I wasn't into the OA, but I appreciate that a lot of people liked it. So it's like, yeah, why cancel that? What was the other one? The one that, the one about psychic connections. It's by the people who did The Matrix. Sense8, yeah, like that, for example.
It's not just the people that did The Matrix. It's also the guy that did Babylon 5.
Oh, all right, I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we just instead they cancel all of this shit.
They did at least like let them fucking wrap up like 4 seasons worth of stuff in a 2-hour film for that.
For fuck's sake.
It's more than fucking Drew Barrymore and Raylan Givens got.
Yeah. Fuckers. Won't even give them it as well. Like, actually fully will not give them the rights to it, even though they've opted to buy it from Netflix. They've refused to even do that for, like, I think it's like 10 years or some shit they're making them wait. They just sit in the IP. Fucking horrible cunts. I hate them. Anyway, this has been the airing personal beefs of the podcast section.
Yes, it's why we're here.
Yeah.
Sorry Alistair isn't here to join, but, you know, he'll be back hopefully next week.
No, well, I mean, like, rip Alistair for watching half of this fucking film and then not even having to, like, do a podcast about it.
Also, may I just say, big rip to my partner who ended up watching literally half this movie drunk out of her mind Sunday night and then watched the whole thing again with me today.
Oh.
Yeah. My missus wouldn't watch it with me. She fucking hates Ryan Gosling for some reason.
I mean, off the back of this, it's justified.
She got mad at me because I like about 7 times during this film I like paused it and just went to wander around the house for a bit because I was bored out of my mind. On one of those jaunts, like she asked, I thought you were watching that film, and I was like, I am. It's shit, but Ryan Gosling is bae. And then she got really mad.
Okay. On that note,
on that note, yes. So we will be back with another episode next week. You can get more episodes. We've just dropped the bonus for this month at patreon.com/praxiscast. You can see us on Twitch sometimes Mondays, sometimes Thursdays. Just have a look on the Twitter. That's twitch.tv/praxiscast. You can get merch at what do you call it?
The merch store.
The merch store, that's right, which is praxiscast.tmail.com. And you should also listen to Peace at Home, a podcast with music by Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Yeah, we'll catch you next week. Cheerio.
Bye.
All right.
See you
later.